soothing story time. The Magic Frost Cow and the Port of Fanmere. The Magic Frost Cow was a special cow. None were like her. She had the sweetest nature, and what she lacked in knowledge of the world, she made up for with kindness. The Magic Frost Cow ate frozen grass and burped out snowballs. Her little moose could cover objects in frost, and her big moose could turn objects into ice. Her tail, when swished from side to side, could summon up a mighty wind that melted the snow from the trees. She could only help people in the winter, as she could only live in the cold. She had noticed how some of the people liked to slip across frozen lakes and rivers. She was off to the river in the town where all the people were, to freeze the river for miles in every direction. She wasn't sure of the name of the town, though she had heard it referred to by several people as the port, whatever that was. Now she was perched up a tree on the side of a hill, overlooking the port of Fanmere. The Magic Frost Cow watched as the little shapes moved around the town and the docks. There were carts pulled by horses, big wooden ships, people carrying boxes, people carrying bags, people sitting around on boxes drinking tea. Most of them were just shapes moving. She didn't know what they were doing. She wanted to know, though, because if she knew what they liked doing, then she would know how to make them happy. There were teeny people running around in circles and chasing each other. The Magic Frost Cow thought the teeny ones would like to slip across the ice the most. She was happy at all the joy she would bring. She bounced out of the tree and onto the frozen ground. She bounced through the trees until she came to the edge of the trees. There she waited until nightfall. When it was dark, she crouched down and tiptoed on the edge of her hooves down to the edge of the town. Nobody saw her. There were still a few people on the streets of the town, so she crouched down again and then bounced up onto the nearest roof. A tile slid off and broke on the street below, but the street below was empty. The Magic Frost Cow crouched down again in case anyone inside the house came to see, but they didn't. So after a short while she trotted along the roof edge and jumped to the next roof. She made her way excitedly along in the dark to the main port of the town. There were still a few people moving about, but only where the lights were, next to the big ships and the huge warehouses. She hopped down off the roof and crept along in the shadows. She scuttled along, past smaller storehouses and past sheds and wooden boxes, to where the smallest boats were moored. She happily tiptoed to the edge of the wide river. She took a deep, deep breath and mooed her biggest moo at the water. Ice spread out from her in a thick sheet. She mooed again. The ice spread out farther and farther. People working on the big ships wondered why there was a cow mooing down by the small boats. Then they heard a strange cracking noise. The water around them lightened. They looked down horrified to see ice spreading around the ships and moving up the river, trapping them and all the other ships. The magic frost cow looked out at the thick ice and sighed happily. She turned and scuttled back into the shadows, then up onto the roofs and back up the hill to hide in the trees until morning, when she would look out and see all the people joyfully skating on ice. Meanwhile in the port, terrified sailors stood around the port, wondering if the evil thing that had frozen their ships would freeze them too. People were woken from their cozy slumbers to come and see the unnatural thing that had happened. When the sun came up, the magic frost cow was waiting excitedly behind some rocks next to the river, downstream of the town, so she could see all the people enjoying the skating before she moved on to the next set of people to help. She waited. She waited some more. There were people on the riverbank, but none of them was skating. She couldn't understand it. Then she saw them, children. They slid out onto the ice, laughing. The bigger people on the banks of the river started to shout at them. The magic frost cow couldn't hear what they were saying. Then some of the bigger people tried running onto the ice after the children. They fell over and slid. The children laughed some more and tried to skate away. More adults ran onto the ice and fell over. So did more children, and a dog which slid along barking. Then more children and adults and dogs, all sliding and crashing into each other and falling over and barking, arguing, shouting, laughing, and one child was crying. He licked the ice and his tongue had got stuck to it. The magic frost cow watched for a while. In confusion, they seemed to be happy and sad about the ice. They were only meant to be happy. Then she saw some people hitting the ice. They were attacking the ice in front of the ships, trying to smash it. They did not look happy at all. Oh dear. The magic frost cow put her hoof to her mouth. She had gotten it wrong again. She only wanted to make them happy. Sadly, she watched, trying to work out why the ship people didn't like the ice. She watched till the sun went down, and she had a new idea. The ship people wanted a gap for the ships to float in, so she would use her mighty tail and melt the ice in the center of the river. Then they could skate along the edges. Then everybody would be happy. She wasn't sure why the adults were angry at the skating children, but she would worry about that later. The people began to leave as the light left the sky. The magic frost cow munched on some frozen grass for a while, till most of the people were gone. She crept to the edge of the river where the ice started, slid out to the middle, which was fun. Who wouldn't like ice? Strange people. Anyway, she stood right in the middle of the ice and faced upstream. She took a deep breath, steadied herself, and started to swish her tail faster and faster. The ice melted behind and she was pushed off with her back feet and skated along, melting the ice behind her as she went, making a wide strip of ice-free river, big enough even for the biggest boats. When she reached the end of the ice, she skated over to the bank and trotted back. She waited till there were no people near the first few boats and trotted onto the ice, melted it with her tail, and trotted back to the bank. She was happy again. They would like this. She spent the rest of the night melting ice and hiding from the people on the shore. The next day, many people were happy, still puzzled and slightly unnerved, but happy they could sail out of the port. Some were worried by reports of a strange frozen cow creature skating, but most people thought it hysterical nonsense. The magic frost cow watched happily. All was going well. The people liked the gap in the ice, till all the children slipped out to play on the ice and fell into the water. They didn't seem to like falling in cold water, so the magic frost cow spent the rest of the day thinking. Again she waited till dark, skated out, and melted the ice on both sides of the river. Then she bumbled along to a bare field, burped out many large snowballs, jumped up and down on them till they compacted into ice, and then smoothed them out. The light was beginning to define the countryside as she smoothed out the last lump. She bounced excitedly up the hill to watch from a distance. The people with the boats were happy, and when the people found the thick sheet of ice, the children ran on and skated and slid about, and a few of the adults joined in. Some of them skated right off the edge and fell on the ground, because the magic frost cow didn't think of a barrier around the edges, but overall it was a success. She watched the people enjoying themselves and felt very happy indeed. That night she bounced off in search of some more people to make happy. The end.